Welcome back, Mr. Jobe.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Mr. Jobe, ñu ngi laa dalalaat.
Thank you all. Before the break,
balaañ doon dem ci break bi.
You told us about two important events or incidents that occurred in your life.
wax nga ñu ñaari xew-xew yoo xam ne lu am solo la ci sa dunda.
The first was your arrest and torture during when the UDP intended to hold a rally at Fitzgerald Street in 2002.
bu njëkk ba moo di mitital bi nga xam ne def nañ la ko jamono ji nga xamee ne waaye UDP ñu ngi doon fasoo def rally boo xam ne ñu ngi ko doon bugg a def ca Fitzgerald Street ci Banjul.
And the second one you talked about was your arrest by NIA officers, during which you were taken to the NIA, tortured, electrocuted on your private parts, resulting in your loss of manhood and being made to lie on cold floor, as a result of which you suffered chronic pneumonia.
Beneen bi mooy biñ la jàppee yóbbu la NIA def la fa ay mitital yu bari yoo xam ne jël nañ courant di la ko def ci sa yaram bi ba tax na sax nga ñàkk sa góor yaa ak it ay gaañu ci bari yoo xam ne am nga ko ci sa yaram bi ci jamono jooju nga xam ne ñu ngi la jëloon yóbbu la foofu ca NIA.
And finally, you were detained at the NIA for 2 months, after which you were transferred to the remand wing of Mile 2 prisons and released soon after.
Gannaaw bi nag ñu jëlee la NIA yóbbu la remand foofa ca Mile 2 di ñaari weer yoo xam ne yaa nga foofa gannaaw gi nag ci lañ la door a bàyyi.
And you were never taken before any court.
Te nag musuñ laa yóbbu ci court.
Now let's proceed with your testimony.
Léegi nag ñu eggali sa seede yi.
Your arrest, detention, torture of 2011 was not the last time you had an encounter with the security forces of this country, correct?
Arrest biñ la arrestoon jàppala def la ay mitital yooyu yëpp ci atum 2011 emul foofu rek de am na yeneen yoo xam ne xewaat na du loolu.
Dëgg la.
Tell us about the incident in April 2016.
wax ñu bi nga xam ne nag moo xewoon weeri April ci atum 2016.
Thank you very much, Council. Jërëjëf.
Thank you.
April 2016 boobu Westfield la xewoon incident boobu.
That incident happened at the Westfield.
Time bu ñëw executive bi di génn from Kër Ousseynou pour head about ñëw to Westfield.
It was when the executive left Ousseynou compound heading to the Westfield.
Mr. Witness, let's give a bit of background to this. Did anything happen on 14th or 15th April 2016 concerning the UDP party?
ñu wax rek jàpp bés bi mooy fukki fan ak ñeneen ak fukki fan ak juróom ci weeri April 2016 ndax dara xewoon na.
ci parti UDP.
ci parti UDP bi.
waaw loolu xamunoon na dara xewoon na.
Yes, something happened.
Could you tell us about it?
li ñu mën a wax lu xewoon.
Incident boobu mooy woon Westfield la xewee.
That incident happened at the Westfield.
What was it about?
Lana xewoon.
mooy bu executive bi di génn UDP executive bi.
That was when the UDP executive came out.
jógee Kër Ousseynou.
From Ousseynou compound.
ñëw di woot Westfield.
Coming towards Westfield.
What were they coming to do?
lan lañ génnoon pour def lan lañ doon waaj a def.
ñëw pour political reform.
They were coming for a political reform.
How were they doing that?
naka lañ ko doon defee.
a group. ñoo dajee Kër Ousseynou.
A group met at Ousseynou compound.
So foofu lañ assemblé génn.
That was where they assembled and came out.
Was it just a simple procession or was it a protest?
loolu moom dajee la woon rek boo leen doon def di dem wala dafa amoon loo leen doon ñaxtu.
waaw dafa am lu ñu doon ñaxtu.
It was a protest.
Tell us about it.
parce que affaire sànni carte bi ni mu doon demee jamono jooju.
It was in relation to the elections, the way it was taking place in those days.
loolu lañ doon xeex.
That was what they were fighting.
That's why moo tax gars yi génn.
That was why they came out.
Jógee kër Ousseynou pour ward the Westfield Johnson.
Left Osen's compound towards the Westfield Junction.
ñu ñëw ba commune.
Was there an earlier demonstration prior to this one you're talking about?
Damoon na benn ñaxtu boo xam ne amoon na lu jiitu bii nga wax nii.
non man bii laa tombé woon.
This was the one I took part in.
We understand this is the one you witnessed and participated in, but was there any earlier demonstration that day or the days preceding, the days prior to that?
xam nañ ne bii nga fekkee woon te bii nga bokkoon waaye ndax amoon na beneen boo xam ne xewoon na ay fan balaa bii.
waaw moo ñëw Solo Senjeng late Solo.
Yes, this is the one concerning the late Solo Sandeng and the others.
At Bamboo Nightclub Johnson. Safidin.
Or the Bamboo Nightclub Junction in Safidin.
And what was that about?
boobu moom lan la woon.
boobu tamit Solo moo génn ak gaayam yi pour affaire political reform bi ñoom it the same problem la woon.
Solo came out with his colleagues on political reforms.
moom moo njëkk a génn balaa ñu Ousseynou.
He came out before Ousseynou.
And do you know what happened to the demonstration that was led by Solo Sandeng?
xamoon nga li xewoon ci ñaxtu boobu nga xam ne Solo Sandeng moo ko jiite woon.
waaw moom affaire yi mooy affaire politique reform bi rek.
Yes.
lifin la rek political reform bi la woon rek the same la woon.
It's the same political reform.
Listen to the question carefully. Do you know what happened to Solo Sandeng during that demonstration that he led?
fa la ñàkkee bakkanam.
Others were. They took him to the NIA and
They are 9 in numbers daal.
The NIA, you knew for certain you are telling us that Solo Sandeng was arrested around Bambo, and you two were subsequently arrested and taken to the NIA.
wan mu mel ni dañ ñoo bëgg a wax ne Solo Sandeng dañ ko arrestoon ci boori Bambo gannaaw loolu tamit.
Westfield.
suñ bos Westfield la woon.
Ours was at Westfield.
The demo happened on the same day or different dates?
Different.
First,
In a sense, at around Bamboo in London Corner.
waaw.
mu mel ni Solo Sandeng dafa jiite woon ñaxtu bi ngir doon ñaxtu nag ci ay soppal yoo xam ne dañ ko war a def ci wàlli élection bi. mu xewee woon nag ca Bambo noonu la.
noonu la demee.
As far as you know, was he arrested on the day of that demonstration or on a different date?
ci yow li nga xam bés boobu mu doon def ñaxtu bi ci lañ ko jàpp wala beneen bés lañ ko
waaw su ma
jàppoon.
mënee fàttale ko foog naa that very day dañ ko téye.
if I recall, well, I think it was the very day that he was arrested.
Do you know what was the exact reason why the executive of the UDP had to come out and make their own demonstration?
lan moo waraloon kilifa yi nga xam ne ñoom ñoo jiite UDP ñu génn pour di def ñaxtu yu mel noonu.
ñaxtu boobu mooy bañ téye Solo.
That protest was after they arrested Solo.
Ousseynou di laajte Solo dead or alive.
Ousseynou was demanding for Solo either dead or alive.
So loolu bokk na ci li tax executive bi génn.
That was one of the reasons why the executive came out.
Ak political reform bi tam yëpp si la bokk.
And also the political reform too was also part of it.
Let's try to understand what you're saying. You're suggesting that the executive of the UDP also made a demonstration during which they demanded that Solo Sandeng be handed over to them, dead or alive. That's what you're saying?
Yes.
Waa ñu leeral foofu rek yow li nga bëgg a wax ni mooy ne ñii nga xam ne ñoom ñooy jiiti UDP bi ñoom dañ génnoon gannaaw boo xamee ne ñu ngi jàppoon Solo ñoom nag ñu génn di laajte ne ñoom Solo lañ soxla moo xam mu dunda wala mu dee daal dañ soxla Solo.
Muy digga.
That's true.
That was the demonstration in which you participated, correct?
Boobu mooy ñaxtu bi nga xam ne yow mii ci nga bokkoon.
Waaw bu executive bi di génn noonu.
Yes, the one in which the executive came out.
Could you tell us about that demonstration and your role in it?
Di ñu mun a wax mbiri ñaxtu boobu naka la demee ak yow mii lan moo ci woon sa taxawaay.
Man dama jógee Banjul.
I came from Banjul.
In fact, meetuma executive is on the way they are coming to Westfield.
In fact, I did not meet the executive on their way coming to Westfield.
Man dama taawon Nawek Johnson foofu.
I was standing by the Nawek Junction
With group of people la fa fekka.
with a group of people that I met there.
Thousands of people.
With thousands of people
Nawek Junction where?
In cooperative foofu.
by the cooperative.
Foofu lañ taxaw ñun man fa laa dem taxaw.
That was where we stood. That was where I stood.
So ñu am information.
How did you know that something was going to happen on that day?
Naka nga xamee ne am na lu waroon a xew bés boobu.
Waaw man ci parti bi laa bokk li xew dama ko li war a am dama ko dee yëg.
I am a member of the party, and if anything is to happen, I'm always informed.
Xamoon naa ne lii dina xew.
I knew that that was going to happen.
So man ma dem taxaw fa laa nekkoon.
So I went and stood. I was there.
Information ne intercept nañ leen around Commune Johnson, Kairaba Avenue.
I got information that they were intercepted around the Commune Junction by the
PIU officers.
by the Kairaba Avenue by PIU officers.
Who was intercepted?
Executive bi ak ñoom Ousseynou ñëpp.
The executive, Ousseynou and the others.
Perhaps you should wait for the interpretation. Thank you. Who was intercepted?
Kan moo lañ gàttandu woon.
ñoom Ousseynou ak executive bi.
Ousseynou and the executive.
And what happened during that process?
Lan moo xew nag ci jamono boobu.
dañ leen arrest.
They arrested them,
dugal leen ci truck.
boarded them on a truck.
Who arrested them?
Kan moo leen arrest.
PIU officers yi.
The PIU officers.
How many of them who are arrested, if you know?
Ñaata ci ñoom lañ arrestoon bu dee xam nga ko.
Executive bi yëpp lañ arrestoon ñi génnoon ñëpp.
The entire executive was arrested, those that came out.
ba mu des kenn.
Except one,
Aji Suare.
Aji Suare,
jabari Dembo by force.
the wife of Dembo by force.
soo xoolee nataal bi sax mu ngi ci.
If you look at the photograph, she was there.
mu ngi fa.
She was there.
waaye moom rek moo ci miss.
But she was the only one missing.
dafa lokki trop.
She was very lucky.
ñu ko def ci doon bokki.
Otherwise, she would have been
waaye ñi fa nekk ñëpp lañ téye.
But all those that were there were arrested.
ñoom Kemi Sen Jammeh, ñoom Femi Peters.
People like Kemi Sen Jammeh, Femi Peters,
Deputy Speaker.
the Deputy Speaker,
ñoom ñëpp.
all of them.
But you were not at the scene of arrest. You were at cooperative union end.
yow nekkuloo woon ca béréb ba nga xam ne fa lañ leen doon arresté yow yaa ngi woon ci boori coopérative noonu.
waaw.
Yes.
So how did you come to know of this arrest?
Naka nga xamee mbiri arrest bi.
parce que dafa ñu fa jógee.
Those that came from there
our party militants lañ.
were our party militants.
ñoo jox ñu information bi.
They came and gave us the information.
And what was the information you received?
ban xibaar lañ la jox.
ñu ne ñu téye nañ executive bi yëpp ñoom Ousseynou gaay yëpp ñu génnoon yëpp téye nañ leen.
They told us that they arrested the whole executive, those that came out, Ousseynou and the others, all of them were arrested.
ba mu des Aji Suare.
Except Aji Suare.
And how did you feel when you heard that information?
Ba nga déggee xibaar boobu nag yow loo yëg?
I was very shocked.
It pained me a lot.
It
pained me a lot. Because what they came out for was their right.
The political reform is for everybody.
And the political reform was for everybody.
It's for the Gambia. That
was one of the reasons why Yaya Jammeh left this place.
So having had that information that the party you supported, the leadership was arrested, what did you do next?
Bi nga jotee xibaar boobu nag ne yow parti bi nga xam ne ñoom nga faral seen kilifa yi yëpp arrest nañ leen loo def?
Dañ doon pare jógee foofu Nawek Johnson pour dem di wër Kairaba Avenue.
We were about to leave the Nawek Johnson to head on to the Kairaba Avenue.
Before ñu pare départ.
Before we departed,
military truck bi ñëw.
A military truck arrived.
You said we. Who are you referring to when you said we?
We were
many.
As far as you know?
Of course, sir.
Wow.
Yes.
Party militants.
They were party militants.
And they headed towards Westfield.
Westfield.
And then what happened?
Westfield,
before we left there,
military truck we arrived.
As I told you, it was when the military truck arrived. Some came from the PIU in Kanifing there.
PIU officers.
Those were PIU officers. They had their batons and their helmets.
No attacks the crowd.
They came and attacked the crowd. At that time, the military truck had already arrived. That was when they started jumping on us.
With their life round.
With their life rounds, he said?
Yeah.
Accent Balifeteli.
Who are you referring to when you said they started jumping on us?
I soldier.
They were soldiers.
So when
they jumped on us, there was one person I recognized.
Something Sani. He was in the Navy.
They called him something Sani. He was in the Navy.
That guy was the guy who shot Fafanyang.
That was the guy who shot Fafanyang.
How do you know that he was the guy that shot Fafanyang?
I watched you and him as he testified here.
And do you know his name?
Wow, I'm not landing home LAMIN, something like that.
Yes.
It was in the Navy.
I knew his name. It's either LAMIN or Landing Sane, but okay. He was in the Navy.
Are you sure about the surname?
Well, something small mistake personally.
Something like that. Maybe I forgot his name, but I can recognize him.
Can you describe him?
He's well built and he's dark in complexion.
From red beret.
He used to put on a red beret.
Tall
almost my height.
If
he would be taller than me, it will be just be a little bit, but we should be of the same height.
I would give you a few names and you tell us which one is correct. Lamin Cisse, Lamin Koli, Lamin Jamme, Landing Jamme, Landing Cisse. Which one?
It's Lamin Koli.
Lamin Koli.
Lamin Koli. Is it my newspaper with visa? Just my statement.
I brought a newspaper here when I came to give my statement.
Nice was a point newspaper.
So how do you know it is Lamin Koli?
Nakanga hamene koko Lamin Koli la.
Because it's on the Navy at the seaport.
Because he was in the Navy at the seaport.
So neighbors like every time we do.
They were our neighbors and we were interacting with them all the time.
Did you know him personally or you merely recognized him?
I don't know him, but I recognized him.
But do you realize that Lamin Koli is in fact not as tall as you? You are perhaps way taller than him, if I may put it that way.
It can be possible.
Describe it.
You know, it's just a description, but it can be possible.
But you are right anyway.
And Lamin Koli was a medic.
Lamin Koli mom fajkat la won.
Military doctors.
Yes, it could be, because the Navy also have military doctors.
But how do you know that the person you had an encounter with is called Lamin Koli?
Naka nga xamene nak yow koku nga jotel nonu Lamin Koli la tuda.
Parce que ci crowd bi ma ngi dégg am na ñoo xam ne sax ñu xam nañ ko ñu ngi au turam di ko yoo.
Because in the crowd there were some who knew him and they were calling his name.
But how do you know that he testified before the TRRC?
Naka nga xamene ñew na fi ci kanam TRRC?
Ko gis ci télé bi ya mom.
I saw him over television with you.
Yeah.
Well, would it surprise you to note that I did not lead him in evidence? He was led by my colleague Maria Masingate.
Wa xam nga ne Lamin Koli mom ki ko don laaj fi du won man de Maria Masingate la.
Ba tay rek yeen ñepp nekkon ci table bi dal anyway.
All the same, all of you were on the desk.
Anyway, mistake.
It could be a mistake, but all of you were there.
In fact, on that occasion, I was hardly on the table that day. I spent much of the time outside.
Ah, okay. All right, fine. It's not well, it's not very concerned anyway. It's fine.
But yet still, are you convinced positively that the person, the soldier you saw there on that day was Lamin Koli?
Ndax orna la nak ne yow soldat bi nga gisoon bés boobu Lamin Koli moomu la.
Parce que moomu gaañ.
He wounded me.
How did he wound you?
Naka la la gaañee?
Oui. Fetel la ma dóor, daa di fetel.
He hit me with the gun butt.
Xar suma jëbi ma daanu. Fi ay officers yi
tore my forehead and I fell down.
Can you give us a blow-by-blow rundown of how that happened, step by step, what happened?
Di ñu mëna waxal rek ndanka lan mooy li nga xam ne moo xew benn benn. Li xewoon bés boobu jël ko jéego pour jéego ci ko noonu ndanka.
Proceed, please.
Westfield ak military truck bi.
Because when they came to the Westfield in their military truck,
they jumped suñ kaw
and they jumped on us.
Na moom bam jumpé man la jàkkaarloo.
When he jumped, he faced me.
Mu dóor ma fetel ma daanu.
He hit me with a gun and I fell down.
PI officers yi bokk ci.
The PI officers were involved.
Dóor ma daanu ci pax boobu nekk nawek.
They beat me up and I fell into the dish by Nawek. That's the big dish there. They came after me there and they were stamping on me. That was where I lost my teeth.
Lost my eyesight.
I lost my eyesight till date. All my eyes were spoiled from there. They held my head and they were smashing it against the muddy water.
You said you lost all your teeth.
All of them are gone.
Your smile seems to suggest that there are still some.
On top, but all the front ones are gone. Because if they held your head and they keep smashing it against the mud, my eyes, that was how they all got spoiled.
So the mud entered your eyes?
Yes. Sound, everything. Which is why in the night I can't see. If I don't put on my spectacles, I can't see. If I hold a paper, I am unable to see.
And after all that beating, did they leave you behind?
Gannaaw buñ la dooree door yooyu yépp nag ndax ci lañ bàyyi nañ la gannaaw.
Yes, that was where they left us because there was a huge crowd. And their opinion was just to come and beat us up and be aggressive towards us. But there were some that were arrested. Many. That was how I sneaked out of the crowd. I went between Jacaranda that way. That was how I escaped.
How were you able to see?
Naka nga defoon nag ba mun a gis?
I was blind.
I tried and opened my eyes and crossed the road, and if at all a vehicle was coming, it was going to kill me. The whole of my face was covered in mud.
I was bleeding.
Okay. I was bleeding.
And then what did you do after passing through Jacaranda?
I went into Kanifing. I took the back way. Through the back.
And then what happened after that?
That's where I walked up till Banjul. I tried and got to the hospital. When I got to the hospital, they said they will not be able to attend to me until I went to the police first. I said to them, this was done to me by soldiers, police, and PIU officers. The following morning, I got up. My face was rinsed with salty water. I went to the clinic.
Private clinic.
To a private clinic. I paid. They dressed me. My finger too, that was where it suffered a problem. It cannot bend.
And then what happened after that?
I went to our home. That was where I relaxed. And when my dressing time comes, I go and have my dressing. That was how I managed. Each time I had to go for dressings, I would go and have my dressings. If I had to buy medication, I'll go out and have my medication. In fact, they stitched it. In fact, I treated myself until I got well.
At what stage were you at the NIA?
Ban jamano nga nekkon nak NIA?
NIA time ma joge dressy.
One day when I was coming from dressing. Two individuals came to our home. They said to me they needed me. I asked them where, and they said, we need you. I thought they were police. They said, no, we need you at the NIA. Because there are people who recognized you, and they said you were part of the problem at Westfield. So I went, and they took down my statement. After they took my statement, they said to me, now you can go home.
So anyway, we'll call you.
Anyway, if we need you, we will call you. I used to go there to report, but they did not detain me there.
At what stage did you know that Solo Sandeng was there?
That day that I went there was when I heard that Solo was there.
So, but on this particular occasion, you were not detained?
I was not detained, but I gave my statement.
Earlier on, you mentioned that you were dismissed from the Gambia Ports Authority.
Wow. Yes.
I would give you this document to take a look at. You take a look at the document. Can you tell us what it is?
In 2011. Dismissal letter.
From which institution?
Admit
I think it's from the admin.
Admin of which department?
Ferry services.
Admin bufanla.
Ferry services.
Ferry services. Signed by who?
And moko sign.
It's not signed by the managing director, it's signed by Maria Masar.
Thank you very much. You had provided some pictures to the commission. Please take a look at these.
Jerejef amna it ay natal yo xamne jox nga ko fi commission bi setal yi.
Take a look at that photograph.
That's me. My hand and my finger.
If you look at, can you tell us how long it took for your injuries to heal?
Till over 3 months, maximum. 2 or 3 months.
It took between 2 and 3 months. Because it went until the stitches went off. I was going to have it dressed.
If you look at the photograph, you're wearing a coalition T-shirt, and the bottom writings seem to suggest President-elect Adama Barrow.
So said lo natal bi nak yaangi sol t-shirt coalition bi te ci souf ci walli ndeyjor bi ñu fa bind ne president biñ tan Adama Barrow.
Yes, this was the T-shirt I wore that day I stood at the Westfield. That was why they could easily identify me amongst the crowd.
But that is impossible.
Why, lolu munta am?
Because the attack on Usainu Dabo and the UDP, the executive, preceded the selection of Adama Barrow as a coalition candidate.
Ndaxte jamono joju Usainu Dabo bañ ko doon arrest mo jitu tanna bi nga xamne mom lañ tanna def ko Adama Barrow mu nekk président.
That's true, but at that time these T-shirts were in circulation.
They
were printed.
No, these T-shirts could not have been out.
Council.
We were doing the collections, seeking funds to print these T-shirts.
I understand that. No doubt you may have participated in that. But what I am driving at is as follows.
Hamna wediwuma lolu ne hamna yo bokkon nga ci waye lima wax moy ne
these T-shirts were only printed after Adama Barrow was selected as coalition candidate.
T-shirt yi bo gisee bi ngeen ko defar fekk na Adama Barrow ñu tànn ko ba pare pour mu taxaw ci turi coalition bi.
T-shirt yi gënoon na ñu ko selecté ñu ñoo ko doon print.
T-shirts came
in Westfield
by that time.
When
he was selected, that was when we printed them. They used to sell them at Westfield.
And that is precisely the point. These T-shirts were made after Adama Barrow was selected as the coalition candidate, correct?
T-shirt yi da ngeen ko defal gannaaw bu ñu tànnee Adama Barrow pour mu taxaw ci turi coalition bi du noonu. Waaw dëgg la waaye Adama ñëwoon na pour join ñu.
At that time, Adama came to join Usainu Dabo and co, but they told him that he were not part of it.
We are heading to mile 2.
They told him to stand aside. We were heading to mile 2. Don't be a part of it.
All that is not significant here, but the important thing is that the date that Usainu and co were arrested, these T-shirts were not printed, correct?
I agree with you, Council. I agree with you. At this point, I agree with you. Thank you.
And also, if at all your injuries had healed after 2 months, then it means to say that the injuries would have healed by end of May or June.
Su fekkene nak sa gañu gañu ñu wër nañ gannaaw ñaari wër bon dafa melni mu nga wëri ca wëri May wala June.
Waaw is my memory can serve me. Waaw lolu mën na nekk.
And Adama Barrow was not selected as head of the coalition before December.
Te Adama Barrow tànnuñ ko won pour mu jité coalition bi bala wëri December.
So how do you explain this disparity?
Naka nga muna waxe nak ute bi am ni muna nek a mistake to me.
It can be a mistake. It can be a mistake on my part. I agree with you and I appeal for that.
In my brain.
Sometimes my brain, this has affected my brain.
And if you look at the writings on the T-shirt, it says President-elect Adama Barrow. It means the elections had already occurred and Adama Barrow was already chosen or was already elected as president, but he's not yet taken over.
Boss said lo binda yiñ fa def dañ ne président biñ tànn Adama Barrow bon dafa melni bobu tànn nañ ko def ko président waaye bobu commencé gut.
So which means to say that this picture was taken around January in 2017.
Bon mu melni natal bi ñu ko jël bori January 2017.
Do you see the problem?
But the T-shirt was out a long time.
Anyway.
I was the one wearing it anyway.
The problem I have with what you have said is whether those injuries are in fact consistent with the attack on UDP militants in April of 2016, because this picture seems to have been taken in January 2017.
Li ma wax ni moy ndax gañu yi mengo na ak xew-xew bi nga xamne wax nga ne mo la dalon 2016 ndax te natal bi yang ko jël ci atum 2017.
No, I don't think. I don't think.
All right, I'll proceed. And you were subsequently, after the new government came, did you make any complaint about your dismissal?
Légui nak gannaaw bu nguur gu bees gi commencé ndax amna ben tawat boko def ci li nga xamne mo la dal.
Wow.
Yes.
What complaint did you make?
Yan tawat nga def?
Complaint bi dem ci Jobaate.
I went to Jobaate.
Usman Jobaate.
Usman Jobaate.
Bob moy the deputy managing director.
He was the deputy managing director.
Suma ben friend mo fa nekkon officer.
One of my friends was there as an officer.
Musa Diouf foog na xam nga ko Niga One.
Musa Diouf, I think you would know him. Niga One.
Kuma mo call.
He called me
fan nga nekka
and asked where I was.
Maneko ma ngi Banjul de.
I told him I was in Banjul.
Trial nga ñu office Jobaate di ma fa fekka.
He told me, try and come to Jobate's office, you will find me there.
Ma jël taxi.
I took a taxi.
Ma dem fa.
I went there.
Ma fekka ko fa.
I met him there.
Jobaate na ma toogal.
Jobaate told me to sit down.
Ma toog.
I sat down.
Mu ne ma léegi sa problème bi.
He said to me, now your problem.
Mu ne ma Musa Diouf appel na ci man.
Musa Diouf has appealed to me.
Léegi dañ bëgg pour ñu reinstate la.
Now we want to reinstate you.
Maneko su dee loolu la loolu jaama la sant Yàlla.
I said to him, well, if that is the case, then that is good news, thank God.
Jobaate ne ma da nga try nga binda apologize nga binda letter apologize.
Jobaate said to me that I should try and write an apology letter.
Mu ne ma trial nga binda ko soo ko bindee.
He said to me, try and write it, and after you've written it,
mu ne ma jox ko Musa mu isi ko.
he said to me, give it to Musa, he will bring it to me.
Bu ma ko bindee ma call Musa.
When I wrote it, I called Musa.
Ma ne ko foo nekka.
I asked him where he was.
Mu ne ma ngi Albion Place ci boori Albion School.
And he said he was at the Albion place by the Albion school.
Mu ne benn kees ku fa nekka mu ngi ndeewu foofu.
There was a kiosk where he was having his breakfast.
Mu ne ma soo ko fee bokkul rek di nga gis kees bi ci wall bi wali Albion School bi.
He said as you bend by the Buckle Street, you'll see the kiosk by the school.
Opposite former Great Alliance Insurance.
Mu ngi jàkkaarloo ak Great Alliance Insurance.
So ma dem fekk fa Moose.
So I went there and met Moose.
Fekk ngay ndeewu.
At that time, he was having his breakfast.
Ma ne ko letter baa ngi nii.
I said to him, here is the letter.
Ma jox ko ko.
And I gave it to him.
Mu ne ma demal nga dem toog bàyyi ma ko mën naa ko toppatoo.
He told me to go and sit down and leave things in his hands. He will take care of it.
Mu ne moom ci élection.
I think the following day,
Or that day.
waaw
si la dem ci Jobaate.
That was when he went to Jobaate.
Mu jox ko letter bi.
And gave him the letter.
Man maa ngi toog daw ma fa.
I was sitting down. I didn't go there.
So you were subsequently reinstated?
So bu mu yóbboo letter bi jox ko Jobaate.
Mujjee nañ laa jëlaat.
Waaw reinstate nañ ma.
Yes, I was reinstated.
And you were reinstated on Valentine's Day of 2018.
Bési Valentine lañ la jëlaat.
That must have been very sweet. February 14, 2018, you were reinstated, correct?
Wow.
Yes.
Good.
Bu ñu ko joxee letter bi.
After they gave him the letter,
waaye before man bu ma fa demee Jobaate def na ma demal nga dem toog man naa jël.
when I went there,
dem face Tambédou.
Jobaate said to me, relax, I will go and face Tambédou.
And what Tambédou was the managing director. So Jobaate dem ci Tambédou xaw ma na lu ñu discuss foofu nekkuma fa.
Jobaate went to Tambédou. I don't know
But
what
suffices to say that you were reinstated on 14 February 2018.
waaye mën naa wax ne jëlaat nañ la liggéey February 14, 2018.
But prior to this time, you had already made a complaint to the ombudsman, correct?
Why bala lolu nak yobu won nga sa tawat ci ombudsman.
Wow. Yes.
And you subsequently had to withdraw your request, your complaint from the office of the ombudsman.
Gannaaw gi nak tawat bobu nga xamne mom nga yobu won ci office ombudsman nga dem nangu wat ko.
Wow.
Yes.
Because
something was pending.
Parce que case GPA.
Because the case of the GPA.
Ombudsman.
If it is at the ombudsman,
decide.
They cannot decide it.
Take a look at those documents. You would see the withdrawal letter to the office of the ombudsman.
Seta kayit yi ma la jox letter bi nga bindoon nak pour nangu wat sa tawat bobu ci ombudsman.
Ombudsman la ak reinstatement letter.
Yes, the ombudsman and the reinstatement letter.
Comme ni ma la ko waxee la rek.
And the other letter is your letter of reinstatement.
Thank you
very much. Mr. Chair, before I yield the witness, before I hand over the witness to you, I would wish to ask that the following documents be admitted as exhibits.
Chairman, bala mala jébal nak sédé bi dama bëgg kayit yi ñu duggal ko ci biir kayiti sédé yi.
That is the letter to the ombudsman withdrawing the complaint by the witness.
Moy letter bi nga xamné sédé bi bindon nako office ombudsman di nanguwaat tawat bi nga xamné mom la fa yobbu won.
Okay. The first exhibit would be 122A. The one I have just cited would be 122B.
Jëkka bi moy number bi moy 122A, benen bi moy 122B.
And the reinstatement letter would be 122C.
Letter biñ ko binda nak pour jëlaat ko ci liggéey bi mo wara nek 122C.
And the photograph of the witness in which he wore Coalition Gambia t-shirt, that should be 122D.
Benen natal bi nga xamne nak sédé bi mu ngi ci natalu te sol t-shirt coalition bi bobu mun na nek 122D.
And with that, Mr. Chair, if the documents are accepted as exhibits, I would hand over the witness to the Commission for further questions.
Légui nak Mr. Chair bu dé nangul nga ñu nak yoy yeb ñu duggal ko mu nek ci kayiti sédé yi su boba nak légui mun na la jébal sédé bi.
Council
Hold on a second. Mr. Job.
Yes, sir.
Were you prosecuted
Mr. Job ndax yobbu nañ
in
la
2002?
Atte nañ la 2002.
Taken to court?
Yobbu nañ la court 2002.
Okay. Let's deal with these documents first.
Documents first, thank you, Council. Your requests, 2, 3, 4 of them, I think, are granted. The discrepancies that you were referring to, alluding to regarding the photograph, what's the outcome? Are you satisfied that the photograph is authentic in the light of the date discrepancies and other things? Are you satisfied?
I am satisfied that the photograph is authentic, but I am not satisfied that the injuries showed are consistent with his testimony. If the injuries he complained of occurred in April and healed 2 months thereafter, they could not have been the same injuries as those shown in the photograph, because it's quite clear that these photographs, in my view, were taken in January 2017. So it's either that the witness is mistaken as to the connection between the injuries and the photographs that he gave, or the duration in which his injuries healed. But quite clearly, the witness could not explain, he could not explain away the discrepancies, which, I mean, I leave it to the Commission to assess the credibility of the witness on that particular issue. I am under no doubt that he suffered injuries, but whether the injuries in April are those that are depicted in the picture that was taken in January.
Actually, my point was exactly on that one, whether or not that would determine the authenticity of the photo. But if you are satisfied with the other points, I leave it to you to request the inclusion of these.
Yes, perhaps they should be included such that the Commission would have a basis to assess the credibility of the witness on that particular issue.
Wonderful. Thank you. Oh, sure.
Molave.
Thank you. Council, you may continue. Third time he had some questions for you before we have him, the Commission gets it.
Mr. Chair, I have received this document from this witness. Perhaps it is something that we need to clear. I asked him whether he was ever convicted. When you were arrested in 2002, were you taken to court?
Lima buga laaj seede bi mooy biñ ko arresté atum 2002 ndax yóbbu woon nañ ko court.
Musuma taxaw court.
I never stood before a court.
Mr. Witness, take a look at this document. It was provided by you.
Seedal kayit bi nga xam ne yow yaa ñu ko jox.
Have you seen this document before?
Receipt la.
Kayit bi gisoon nga ko.
Receipt la buma bay.
This is a receipt. When I was being released, this was what they wrote and gave to me.
I'm till.
They said to me, hold it. When I was going, this was what I took.
Who gave it to you?
Kana la ko jox?
In mile 2.
Mile 2 lañ la ko joxe.
Did you read the document?
Jàngoon nga ko kayit bi.
Holuma ko parce que my eyesight is a problem.
I didn't look at it because my eyesight was a problem.
You know.
Did they tell you what is the nature of this document?
Waxoon nañ la kayit gi pour lan la?
No, waxuma dara.
No, they told me nothing.
Bring the document. The document reads as follows.
Kayit bi liñ ci bind lii la.
Certificate of expiration of a term of imprisonment.
Certificate la boo xam ne jamono ji la téye woon ci prison bi jeex na.
So it says, whereas
wax na nag ne ci kaw loolu.
Number 96 of 2002.
Number 96 bu 2002.
LAMIN
Jobe
was sentenced to a term of 6 months imprisonment.
Dañ ko tëjoon juróom benn weeri kaso.
On the 27th day of May 2002.
Ñaar fukki fan ak juróom ñaar ci weeri May 2002.
And has under Part 11 of the Prison Act, Cap 21.
Te ci kaw nag bunti luwa prison yooyu nga xam ne moom la lim.
Of 1990.
Bu 1990.
Serve the period of imprisonment required under Regulation 68 of the Prison Act.
Appa bi nga xam ne nag moom lañ ko tëraloon pour mu tëdda ko ci kaso bi tëdda na ko ba jeexal ko ci wàlli luwa prison bi.
It is deemed that the remaining portion of that sentence has expired from the 5th of July 2002.
Mu mel ni li desoon nag ci li nga xam ne moom la waroon a tëdda jeex na bési juróomi fan weeri July 2002.
And it was signed for the Commissioner of Prisons.
Kiko sign nak daf ko def ci turi commissioner bu prison.
Mr. Jobe, what this document says,
Mr. Jobe, kayit bi day lim wone.
It says that you were prosecuted and imprisoned.
Moy ne yóbbu nañ la court, atte nañ la, tëj la.
And you were prisoner number 96 of 2002.
Te joxoon nañ la number muy 96 bu 2002.
And that you were sentenced for 6 months.
Te ñu ne tëj nañ la pour nga tëdd kaso juróom benni weer.
And from the 27th of May.
Ñaar fukki fan ak juróom ñaar ci weeri May.
And that you have served a portion of that.
Te am na ci loo xam ne tëdda nga ko ci.
And that was that expired on the 5th of July 2002.
Te loolu jeexoon na juróomi fan weeri July 2002.
And that is the reason why you were released.
Te loolu moo tax ñu bàyyi la.
What do you have to say about
loo
that?
am pour wax ci loolu.
Council, I heard what you said. But this paper, they wrote it.
Why man suffer man sentence 6 months in prison.
But I did not serve a 6-month sentence in the prison.
Definitely,
when I was leaving, I was called and they gave it to me.
When you produced these documents to the commission, did you know the nature and content of this document?
Bi nga jëlee kayit bi indi ko ci commission bi jox leen ko ndax xamoon nga li ci biir kayit bi ak lim omba.
It was mixed up in the documents that I brought.
In my papers,
the commission would examine this.
Commission bi nañ ko seet.
If the prison would issue a certificate of expiration of a term of imprisonment to someone who's not been taken to court and sentenced.
Su fekkee ne prison bi moom mun nañoo joxe kayit boo xam ne wone na ne nit ki tëdd na kaso ba jeexal àppa biñ ko àppaloon te fekk borom musuñ koo yóbbu court ba yoon daan ko.
But that would reflect a fundamental problem in the prison system.
Bon nag su boobaa nag lii problème bu rëy laa doon ci biir prison bi.
But be rest assured, the commission would look into this. Mr. Chair, I ask that this document also be exhibited.
Mr. Chair,
as Exhibit 122E.
Number 122E.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Own plans.
They could have done it for their own plans. But I did not serve this sentence. Because there's no truth at the prisons. Because whatever pleases them, they could frame me for it.
Thank you, Council. And your request is granted also.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Council, and thank you, Mr. Jobe, for coming to testify before the Commission.
Jërëjëf Council, jërëjëf yow it Mr. Jobe ci li nga ñëw pour joxe sa seede fii ci kanam commission bi.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry that you are still suffering from the consequences of the horrific and the massive torture that you had endured in the hands of agents of the state.
Maa ngi metitlu nag ci benn tey jafe-jafe yi nga xam ne yaa ngi jànkuwante ak moom ngir mitital bi nga xam ne teg nañ la ko ci mu ngi bàyyeekoo ci ñi nga xam ne ñoo waroon teewal nguur gi.
Suffering was quite extraordinary.
Mitit gi moom mitit la boo xam ne daal lu doy waar la.
Commissioners, if you have any questions, please indicate. Yes, I'm a Commissioner Carr. I'll start on the commissioners on the left, on the right. Commissioner Carr, you have the floor, please.
Thank you, Chairman. My question
my question is a small one.
Apology letter.
You said earlier on that they had asked you to write an apology letter.
Apologize for. Why get you correct? If
I heard you clearly, what were they asking you to apologize for? When Jobate called me, he said to me, this case, Because at that time, when it happened, it was advantage. The managing director that was there, whatever he did, it was not lawful. There were some directors that took their own executive powers. Even if they wanted to help someone, to employ him, he would not accept. He will choose his own people and employ them at the ports. Someone like Jobate is from Banjul.
Very helpful somebody.
Is someone that is very helpful. All the natives of Banjul that are working at the port, he brought them in.
Director of operation.
That time he was the director of operations.
Deputy managing director time.
He was not yet the deputy managing director at the time.
Dock workers.
When it comes to the dock workers, all the natives of Banjul that are there were brought in by Jobate. He had a lot of sympathy for the people of Banjul. That was why he said to me,
apologize.
Write an apology letter and just apologize to fast track your issue. Because we are all natives of Banjul. What happened to you was a provocation, but you wouldn't say it. After I wrote it,
2 weeks.
It did not take 2 weeks. I just sat there and they called me.
My friend,
the friend that I sat with, he had a vehicle.
Please don't drop ports.
I said to him, please, could you drop me reports? I'm cold. I got inside and we went. When I got there, the messenger said to me, this is your letter, and asked me to sign. He told me that you have been reinstated. That was how it went.
What
I cannot understand is that if at all they troubled you, as you explained it,
why
would you have to write an apology letter? That is what I don't understand. They mentioned it, so I just agreed. I cannot refuse. It's my interest I was following. I shouldn't have done it. But I realized that if I did not do it, and that is what they asked me to do as an authority, so I just complied and did it. I just wrote it.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bojan.
Mr. Jobe. Mbenna bala fatandile la ko ya fo nyami ko ye ko ya kol min be taki.
Mr. Jobe mangi mitidlu nak bu baax li jafe-jafe yi nga xamne yeb mom nga janku wantel.
I sympathize with you for all the difficulties that you have gone through.
Thank you very much.
Mbe ñinen kala kabiri janni ke dismiss ye post nu muntole.
Dima la buga laaj moy bala ñu la doon dakh ci liggéey bi fan nga nekkon di liggéey.
What I want to ask you is, before you were dismissed, where were you posted?
Barajali.
La dismissal letter falam ko ngaje ko ye report of fintini je ko ibuka somtala do ko la ko alla luaya fo nyami do ko la luaya fo nyami fo wolemba fo wonte because dismissal letter bal ngole jeje ko wala tina ye bay malete wo ko je nyaadini
letter bi nga xamne nak mom lañ binda ne dakh nañ la ci liggéey bi liñ fa binda moy ne yow ni nga waron di dem di liggéeyé do daan dem liggéeyé je nonu lolou lañ binda ci lettre bi ne lolou motax ñu daxala xawma yow nak naka gisé lolou
on your dismissal letter it was written that the reason why you were dismissed is because you were not executing your functions as expected. Is that true, and how do you react to that? I heard what you said, but I think if you post someone to a place where he is going to work, where he has no mother or father,
post it at Barajali station, Feribo Hamne.
You post someone at Barajali ferry station, a post which is only operational on Lumos.
The Faranjar.
Commissioner Kinte is here. He used to cross there. He came to my room and woke me up one night. He was to cross over to Brikamaba.
Dead body.
Because they had a dead body. I will not forget that at all.
So customer every time.
So a customer, he crosses with the ferry all the time. He knows how Barajali is like. When you sit in Barajali, the mosquitoes come to you like rain. You will not even have a proper room to sleep in. Commissioner Kinte knows what I'm talking about. Secondly, to have even good food, you cannot. If it is come to the worst, you may have porridge. So before you post someone there, you should look on the side of accommodation where the person will stay. Those are not in existence there. It's very difficult.
Abaraka ngela okumo mwele ni aje ngi ninka ye kumol fo janne bari mambara jali moy malon dalilo mi yatina ye dismiss ye dalilo mi foko ye dismiss ye ko Usen Dabo e ka fenko min dia bunya min dia bari nata kayto kono je ngani sifaje wala na ngi ninka police sene yande nin mi yatina kante min ja anite min fo e manke kinwote.
So gisee ma laaj la loolu mooy ne ci sa kàddu yi tudduloo fi sax Bara Jallow te dama gis ne yow bi nga wax danga wax ne sa ànd ak ni nga doon beralee loxo Ousseynou Dabo buy jàll loolu moo tax bañ daxala te nag ma gis leneen lu utee ak loolu loo xam ne ñu ngi ko bind ci leetar bi moo tax ma laaj la pour nga leeral.
Loolu tam dëgg la moo tax ma leeral ko foofu xam naa ne yàgga loolu tam dina ñëw.
That is true. That is why I made it clear to her there, because I know that in time that issue will come up. All of that is just the fight. You post me in the bush so that I'll be far away from you.
Time biri woketa yela balanda tandi la bamfeme la balanda tandi wala munna kuma la bangot.
Lolu bañ la fa yobo nak ndax woné nga sa mbañ wala woné wuloko.
When that happened, did you protest or not? Even if I protested, they wouldn't have listened to me because there was a dictatorship government in place. How could you dismiss someone from work without even giving them a warning letter?
The letter is not signed by the managing director.
And the letter is not even signed by the managing director. What kind of dismissal is that? That is a provocation. If you dismiss someone, use the right procedure.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Mr. Job, before I give the floor to Lankinte, Bara Jallow is not quite Alabi. You have is the home of the former president, and his father, who was a very rich man in that part of the provinces, came from Bara Jallow.
Mr.
Job, you have the floor.
Bara Jallow nak du àll bi de ndaxte président ba woon fa la dëkkoon te baayam doonoon na ko xam ne ku amoon alal la moom it foofu la faaxee ko.
Voilà ñun fa la ñun facilité ñu amoon foofu yëpp dañ daan dundee foofu yëpp kër jàpp saa daaw la.
All the facilities we used at that time came from the household of Sadawla Kerawa.
Brother Sadawla, Alaji Jawara.
From his brother, Alaji
Jawara.
It's a close friend of mine. We were very close.
So they get feel talk me watan.
He used to visit me and we chatted.
Personally.
He liked me personally.
Legi sa reka sa suma ko bëggé sa daf na ma gudi ñëwal mo ne ko man fi ma dëkk dafa sori parce que dëkk ba gudi so amé rayda sa bu ki topala
it's a place where even if you had a motorbike
man ma dem mu jël wacca
the highness
will follow you da nga jël morceau lahas ko fa parce que bu ki ko gisé sign of the reflector line dañ la topa.
The motorbike reflector would have to be covered by a cloth because if the highness saw the reflector, they will come following after you. There was a hill there where the hyenas.
Thank you very much indeed for those bookie stories. Commissioner Kinde, you have the floor.
Assalamu alaikum. Dina degeral li nga wax watu bobu fofu jafena.
I will strengthen what you said. During those days, that place was quite hard.
Why Port Authority li ñakon moy pour wara tété nit ñi bu ñu leena yobbu fo xamné mengo wut ak ñom fuñ min.
What the port authorities lacked at that time was how to help comport those who were being moved to an area where they are not familiar with.
Wa ñi nga xamné ñom dañ leen santa pour ñu dem liggé ak mbolo yi ci ala bi wala ci kaw gi.
Those that were asked to work with the communities in the provinces.
Dañ leen day jangal ba nga xamné dinañ mëna mengo ak ñom té fekk du nekk problème.
They used to sensitize them in a way that they will be able to cope with the situations when they get there.
Mënon na wa bena Solomon Owens nekon na Kiang Karantaba.
I can
from Banjul, so it was no.
Solomon Owens, who was from Banjul to Kiang Karantaba.
But based on the extension orientation, he adapted very easily until he was going to wrestling matches at night with people, with youths of Karantaba and so on. So that's what is lacking in, I admit that. If you had been orientated properly, you could easily adapt to the situations.
joxe misal ci Solomon Owens moom bi mu ñëwee ñi nga xam ne noonu lañ ko tàggatee woon dafa taxoon ba bi mu ñëwee xëjoon na ci biir askan wi nga xam ne fa la nekkoon ba tax na ba guddi sax daf daan dem di seetaani bëre ak xale yu góor ya nga xam ne ñoom la fa nekkaloon dëgg la yow tamit bu ñu leen tàggatee woon noonu di ngoon doon mun a toog ci biir foofu.
mooy dëgg.
That's true.
mooy dëgg.
Man maa ngi métti na lool li la daloon te
I sympathize
feel nañ ko torop
with what happened and we feel it a lot.
Waaye leena nag sa waxtaan ak ESA.
But one thing, in your discussion with the council,
waxoon nga ñu ne dóor yuñ la dóor ak maasi courant yuñ la maas tax na ba ñàkk nga sa góor ya.
You said to us that the torture you endured and the electrocution that you also endured led to you losing your manhood.
Waaye boobu mu ngi la daloon NIA benn weer nga jóge foofu dem prison ñaari weer yëpp boole ko ñetti weer.
That happened to you when you spent the month at the NIA and then you went to the prisons for another 2 months.
Bila ESA laajee ndax sa jabar daf la doon seet ci fi ñu la téye woon.
When the council asked you whether your wife was visiting you where you have been detained,
da nga ne booba fekkaw sa jabar moom dem na.
You said at that time your wife had already left. She couldn't bear it. Is it when she was aware that you are no longer a man that was when she left? When I was arrested and on detention, if you have bad friends, they lead you onto ways where they don't have husbands and you have a husband and they keep telling you that you are here wasting your time. We have a lot of those cases here. When you have friends who are not married and you make them your friends.
Waaw léegi liñ la jàpp moo tax mu dem waaye duxut li nga ñaaka sa góor yaa ñaari parce que bu fekkee loolu la naka la yegee ne da nga ñaaka loolu ba loolu tax mu war a dem so kon loolu taxut mu dem.
Was it
daf la jàmbu rek jàpp nañ la jàmbu na la dem na.
Was it
waaye duxut ne da nga dellu si kër gi mu gis ne mënaatuloo doxaan mu ne la demal.
Was it a result of your arrest that led your wife to leave you, or was it after she realized that you are no longer able to function as a man? And if that is the reason. How did she know that you are no longer able to function as a man? Because you have not gone home where she could prove that you are unable to perform, and then before she could make such a decision. You are making me laugh, Commissioner. What happened to me? I am speaking and laughing, but it's not. See, the way the statement you made, which makes me laugh. Whether she got information. And this betrayal you are talking about is what stands. What I faced. Up till date, I'm facing it. I leave all in the hands of God. Maybe that is something that was to have happened to me. Maybe that is what God destined for me.
So mungi melni dañ la wéjé ci mom bala nga génn sax mom mu daw.
It looks as if you were exposed to her before you were released.
I bad friends
just as I told you.
In the wrong way.
You have bad friends, they lead you on the wrong way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. If there are, Deputy Chair, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Mr. Jobe. What I want to know is, you had 24 stitches on your hand.
Lima buga hamoyne ñaar fukki ñaw ñaw ak ñenent mom nga am ci sa loxo yi.
Did you get the treatment when you were at the police or after you left?
Wan nañ la fajé bi nga nekk ci police bi la wala ba nga génné?
Man dama génna suma metit.
I went out with my pains. I went and treated myself.
So
if you look at it, you can count them.
It's okay. I just wanted to know whether the police had treated you when you were in the.
They did not have my time. What they wanted was for me to die there.
Thank you. Mr. Jobe, if you have any concluding remarks to make, please proceed to do so now.
Jobe, bude am nga nak yan kaddu yo buga teji mun nga ko def.
Jerejef Chairman, man ko gërem diko santa.
Thank you, Chairman.
Mangi gërem commissioner si tok fi yeb.
Thanking the commissioners seated here.
Suma raka Esa, senior counsel.
My younger brother, the senior counsel.
Ak ñim togal ñep.
And all those he's sitting with.
Press all of them.
I thank the press here, all of them. What happened to me, maybe it was something that was to have happened to me. I did not pray to God for it. But maybe this is what God destined for me. It is hard. Because what I experienced in my body, what I felt, I know it. But maybe this is what God said, that before I die, this would happen to me.
I thank God for that.
I thank God for that.
Why, if you have 22 years.
But what happened there for the 22 years, let us not accept it again. It was painful. Today, we thank God with the establishment of the TRRC. Because many thought this would go in vain. Because even at our workplace, they used to mock us. And these are boys who just talk. These are the boys of Banjo. We will teach them a lesson. They dislike Yaya Jammeh the most. But those who support Yaya Jammeh and what he did to his relatives, and what Yaya Jammeh did to Gambians, all of them, all of it we saw here. We are pleading because they say that we should forgive one another. That was why the TRRC was established. We appreciate it a lot. If someone troubles you, you can forgive the person. You can forgive the person. This is the world. Maybe what happened to you also happened to some other person. But let's pray to God that such does not happen again.
Let him don't feel afraid at all.
That did not happen at all.
22 years, encounter.
Because also what we encountered in the 22 years, today is so nice that all are able to sit and narrate what happened to them. Let's leave all in the hands of God. God is able. Let's leave all in the hands of God and know that this is the extent to which God wills it. Those that did this to me, I have forgiven them. I leave them with God.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Job, for your testimony. And again, truly sorry that you had to suffer so much in the hands of the NIA.
Jerejef Mr. Job, ci li nga ñoo joxe fi sa sédé ñuy miti lu tamit nak li nga xamné mo la dal ci loxo NIA yi.
And thank you also for the concluding remarks and the forgiveness that you expressed vis-a-vis your torturers.
Di la gërëm tamit ci li nga xamné moy kàddu yu mujj yi nga fi joxe ak li nga wax nak lu aju ci jéggalante bi ci ñi nga xamné ñoo la doon mitital.
This ends our proceedings for this afternoon. We'll meet again tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for coming.